In 2020, if you said COVID might have leaked from a lab, you were labeled a conspiracy theorist, a fringe nut, a Facebook uncle. But in 2023, the US Department of Energy admitted the lab leak was plausible. Not proven, but not crazy either. Fast forward 2 years, and the CIA weighed in with a similar low-confidence favoring of the lab leak theory as well. And just like that, the line between baseless and believable shifted again. Because in the age of infinite information and algorithmic chaos, the real question isn't what's true, it's who gets to decide what truth even is. Welcome to the conspiracy bubble.
Bob claims he used to work there, reverse engineering alien craft.
Conspiracy that the Denver International Airport is the Illuminati's headquarters.
All men lie to about the truth behind the times of 3 a.m. to 5 a.m.
Conspiracy theories aren't new, but right now they're having a bit of a moment. Why? Because more than ever, people feel like they've been lied to. Trust in institutions is collapsing. As of 2024, only 22% of Americans say they trust the federal government to do what's right most of the time. That's not just low, that's record-breaking low. And that mistrust isn't just about politics. We see companies pretend to care about social issues while exploiting workers, news anchors caught fabricating stories, and pharmaceutical companies profiting off illness. And when the institutions meant to protect or inform you start looking like they're only out for themselves, well, you start to question everything. So people turn inward or online. They start asking, what else are they hiding? What if the crazy thing isn't that crazy? And conspiracies offer something emotionally powerful, a story that explains the chaos, a villain, a pattern, a reason why everything feels so broken. This is what makes them so appealing, even comforting. They don't just feel like forbidden knowledge, they feel like control. Add that to the fact that some conspiracy theories have actually turned out to be true, like COINTELPRO, MKUltra, or like I revealed earlier, the fact that a COVID lab leak is now considered a credible possibility by several US agencies, and suddenly being skeptical isn't just edgy, it feels smart. But here's where it gets complicated. Not all conspiracies are created equal. Some reveal corruption, while others just rot your brain. The challenge now isn't just figuring out what's true, it's figuring out who to trust when no one seems trustworthy. So yeah, people are skeptical these days, and rightfully so, but this is where things go from healthy questioning to falling down a rabbit hole you can't climb out of. Social media doesn't just mirror your skepticism, it rewards it, amplifies it, and monetizes it. Let's start with the obvious. Misinformation spreads way faster than truth online. A team at MIT looked at 11 years worth of tweets, over 120,000 stories, and found that false info was 70% more likely to get retweeted than true stuff, and it reached more people way faster. And no, it wasn't bots doing most of the sharing, it was regular people. Why? Because fake stories are spicy, they're novel, dramatic, and emotionally triggering, while the truth is usually slow and boring. One of the lead researchers, Sinan Aral, said, "Falsehood diffuses significantly farther, faster, deeper, and more broadly than the truth, in all categories of information." In other words, if you post something emotionally charged, even if it's wrong, the algorithm pushes it further. And now I gotta talk about this amazing shirt I'm wearing, one of my new favorite shirts thanks to the sponsor of this video, Into the AM. Into the AM is an apparel company that creates some really high quality tees, pants, tanks, and hoodies. They sent me out their olive heavyweight tee and their basic branded tee, which I'm wearing while recording this video, and I love the way they feel. The heavyweight feels like it's made from really durable, high-quality materials, and it's the perfect kind of oversized fit I like to wear with some outfits. Then when I want to have a more tight-fitting shirt, the basic tee fits my arms like a glove and makes me feel like I have more muscles than I actually do. If you'd rather get some graphic tees, they sent me out a couple of those, and they were comfy as well, but they're not what I usually gravitate towards. And the joggers and shorts they sent were also much more high quality than basically anything I've bought in the past few years, and I was surprised at how reasonably priced they are, especially with the sales that they have going on. They're actually running a Memorial Day sale until June 1st, where you can get up to 70% off on top of the 10% discount you'll get by using my special link. So if you want to add some high quality tees, shorts, and joggers to your wardrobe, you can go to intotheam.com/Hastings or click the first link in my description. The way most platforms are designed is usually that the more you interact with a certain type of content, the more of it you see. What actually inspired me to make this video was this very experience. A conspiracy-like video somehow made its way to my Instagram Reels feed. I decided to watch it all the way through, then just a couple reels later, I got another conspiracy theory video. After that, it took a good while of disengaging with the platform to stop getting recommended these types of videos. This is how conspiracy spirals happen. It's not always that people wanted to believe in this stuff, but rather that they were nudged into it. A study from Northwestern broke this down perfectly. It showed how algorithms basically hijack how our brains evolved to learn. Back in the day, we'd naturally trust people in our group or people with prestige or moral authority, and that made sense for survival. But social media platforms take this instinct and crank it to 150. The researchers called it prime info, stuff that's prestigious, relatable, in-group, moral, or emotional. That kind of content goes viral regardless of whether it's true or not. And when algorithms boost prime content, they end up accidentally, or maybe not so accidentally, making you believe whatever gets the most clicks. And once you're deep in that bubble, it's not just hard to leave, it's hard to notice that you're even in one. A 2021 study in PNAS looked at how people talk about divisive topics like vaccines and abortion on platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and Gab. What they found is that social media doesn't just reflect our beliefs, it reinforces them. The researchers put it pretty clearly. The aggregation in homophilic clusters of users dominates online dynamics. Basically, people don't just randomly mix and mingle with others online, they cluster with others who already agree with them, and once those groups form, they mostly stay that way. The study also found that platforms like Facebook and Twitter showed the strongest echo chamber effects, with people mostly interacting inside their own bubble. They said, quote, "Facebook and Twitter present clear-cut echo chambers in all the observed datasets." In contrast, Reddit and Gab were a little more mixed, but still showed clustering around shared views. So even if you're scrolling through a massive platform, it's probably feeding you a narrow slice of content, and that slice gets narrower the more you engage with it. This kind of dynamic taps straight into our psychology. As humans, we evolved to survive in tight-knit groups. Agreeing with the group meant safety, but disagreeing too much, that's risky. That instinct hasn't gone away, social media has just digitized it. Now, instead of your village, your tribe is made up of mutuals, subreddit mods, or the people you follow on TikTok. And when everyone around you is repeating the same ideas, it's easy to feel like you're right, even if the info you're getting is misleading or false. Over time, that bubble can shape how you see the entire world. One conspiracy leads to another, everything connects, and suddenly, it's not just one lie you're fighting, it's the whole system. Once you start seeing the world through that lens, that everything's manipulated and that the truth is always hidden, it gets harder to pull back because, like I said earlier, sometimes that suspicion is completely justified. In the 1950s and 60s, the CIA ran a program I mentioned earlier called MK Ultra. It sounds like some sci-fi fiction story, but it's real. They secretly drugged and psychologically tortured people to study mind control, and some didn't even know they were being experimented on. These weren't rumors, they were confirmed in government documents declassified in the 70s and discussed in full-blown congressional hearings. Then there's COINTELPRO, where the FBI spied on and actively tried to sabotage civil rights leaders and political organizers. They tapped phones, spread lies, and tried to blackmail Martin Luther King Jr. into suicide. Again, none of this is up for debate. The government admitted to it. You can read the files yourself. And when things like this come to light, it's no wonder that people start to lose faith in the original version of events. It makes the idea of other conspiracies feel a lot more believable. You start thinking, if they lied before, why wouldn't they lie again? That's the moment where skepticism turns into certainty, not because new evidence has appeared, but because you don't trust anything else. And once that switch flips, you don't necessarily need proof, you just need a vibe, a pattern, a gut feeling that something's off. That's the danger. A few real conspiracies can break your trust so deeply that all conspiracies start to seem plausible. And in that mindset, every headline is suspicious. Every institution feels compromised. And the line between critical thinking and total paranoia gets very blurry very fast. Conspiracy thinking also can feel incredibly empowering. It makes you feel like you figured out something that everyone else missed, like you're awake, and that clarity in such a confusing world can start to become addictive. Humans are wired to protect their sense of self, so when a belief becomes part of your identity, or a group's identity, you don't just defend it intellectually, you defend it emotionally. Psychologists call this identity protective cognition. It's the idea that we resist facts that threaten how we see ourselves or our place in a group. You can see this clearly in movements like QAnon. What started as cryptic posts on 4chan became a full-blown worldview. Followers weren't just people with a theory, they were patriots, decoding secret truths and fighting evil behind the scenes. When predictions didn't happen, they didn't back out, they doubled down. That's the sunk cost fallacy in action. The more time, belief, and emotional energy you pour into something, the harder it becomes to admit you were wrong. On the political left, you'll find similar patterns, especially in spaces centered on anti-imperialism and distrust in US foreign policy. And to be fair, a lot of that suspicion is earned. The US government did back violent regime changes in Iran, Guatemala, and Chile, all confirmed by declassified documents. But sometimes that justified skepticism becomes a filter. Everything gets traced back to US control. Every protest is secretly funded by the CIA, and every crisis is secretly orchestrated by the West. Just like QAnon, it creates a closed-loop worldview, one where outside evidence isn't just dismissed, it's seen as part of the conspiracy. And in both cases, online communities reinforce it. Whether you're in a Telegram channel full of Q believers or a subreddit convinced the US is behind every global event, group reinforcement kicks in. Everyone is posting the same theories, using the same language, validating each other. And after a while, questioning the narrative doesn't feel like open-mindedness, it feels like betrayal. That's when conspiracy stops being about truth and starts being about loyalty to your group, your identity, and your worldview. And the deeper you go, the harder it becomes to turn around. Because letting go of that belief means letting go of the version of yourself that found meaning in it. But over time, this isolates you. In the most extreme cases, friends stop texting back. Family avoids certain topics. You find yourself thinking, they just don't get it, or I can't talk to anyone about this anymore. And you're right, you can't, because the deeper you go, the more your worldview becomes incompatible with the people around you. That kind of loneliness isn't just social, it's existential. A 2024 study published in the Journal of Individual Differences found that feelings of existential isolation, that sense that no one understands the way you see the world, were a significant predictor of conspiracy beliefs. The researchers wrote, "Our research finds a consistent link between the feeling that one's subjective understanding of the world is not being heard or understood by those around them and conspiratorial thinking." In other words, it's not just about the theory, it's about the need to feel seen. And when people don't get you, or when your beliefs push you further from them, the only place you do feel seen is in these online communities, places that repeat your worldview back to you. But the more you immerse yourself, the more paranoid you become. A study in applied psychology, health, and well-being found that simply being exposed to conspiracy theories, even casually, can actually make people more paranoid. So the more you engage, the more suspicious you feel of strangers, of friends, of experts. And over time, that kind of chronic distrust starts to affect your mental health in much bigger ways. A study in Scientific Reports found that strong belief in conspiracy theories was linked to higher levels of anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and social disconnection. According to the researchers, quote, "Individuals endorsing the conspiracy belief item had lower levels of psychological well-being, weaker social networks, less secure attachment style, and were more likely to meet criteria for a psychiatric disorder." And in the news, we are seeing how this manifests. Basically, every story of somebody who commits atrocities against other humans is from somebody who wasn't super influenced by the people they were talking to in real life, but rather these types of conspiracy thinking bubbles that they were drawn towards online. That's the hidden cost of extreme conspiracy thinking. You don't just lose trust in institutions, you lose trust in people, in relationships, in life feeling safe. And eventually, you start to lose trust in your own ability to discern between what is real and what isn't. But the truth is, sometimes there isn't a grand design. Sometimes things fall apart because of incompetence or randomness or systems that no one person is steering. And sometimes stepping away from the conspiracy doesn't mean you were wrong, it just means you're ready to let yourself rest. Most people won't fall into full-blown conspiracy thinking, but that doesn't mean it leaves the rest of us untouched. We still live in the same information environments, the same platforms and incentive structures. And in that space, belief moves faster than doubt. Certainty is easier to sell than complexity. Even if you don't believe in conspiracies, you'll feel their effects in your feed, in the news cycle, and in conversations that feel like they've already been preloaded with suspicion. And over time, that shapes how we listen, how we talk, and what we assume about each other. So really try to get better at asking questions. Not just, is this true, but where did this come from? What is this trying to make me feel? Do I want this to be true? Would I believe this if it came from the other side? And what's missing here? These aren't magical filters, they won't solve everything, but they can slow things down, and in a system that thrives on speed and emotion, slowing down might be the only way we can start to see things more clearly. For a long time on this channel, I've been trying to build a community that really values critical thinking, especially when it comes to pushing back against misinformation and echo chambers. The problem is, there's still not a lot of tools out there that teach you how to hone this ability, and I'd argue that it's becoming even more rare the more that the online world gets more and more polarizing. So that is why over the past year, I've been working on creating a critical thinking masterclass, a 16-video curriculum designed to help you break down arguments, spot manipulative rhetoric, and better navigate complex or emotionally charged topics, both online and in real life. I plan to complete the masterclass within the next couple months or so if that sounds like something you're interested in, you can sign up to get notified when it comes out by going to cole-hastings.com/critical thinking. It's one of the first links in the description as well. I'll send you a couple updates through your email as I'm putting it together. And if you enjoy videos where I talk about misinformation and how much it's kind of plaguing modern society right now, you might enjoy this video right here. That's it. I'm heading out. Enjoy your day.